sure we live on this end and we gonna rock and roll. All right, it's saying we live.
Yes, we are.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm in the city, yeah. I'm in the spot, in the vicinity. I'm the hottest up in the city, yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I studied the ones that was the realest, the illest, that invented that. Talking about griots, West African passages for the street stone. Adios, mios, maybe Afro-Latino. There's dishes from Africa's West Central. Let's raise a toast to the ancestors of old. For the knowledge comes in the form of a
griot. In the form of a griot. Yeah. See what it is?
So excited.
Come on, man. It's so fitting for today's episode. It's so fitting. So fitting for the episode, baby. So
Come on,
fitting.
So
yeah.
fitting.
Yes,
So
it is.
fitting. I'm so excited. It's gonna be so good.
All right, peace, and power. Welcome back to the Griot podcast. I let my be a gentleman. Sean taught me to be more of a gentleman. So we'll let my sister introduce herself, and then we'll run down the line of who we are, and then we'll jump right into the scheduled program.
I know that's right. I love that for me. Shout out to y'all for being supportive of that. But I love that for me. So welcome, good people, to the Griots podcast. My name is Dr. Ashley Wade. I am a pharmacist, an author, a community and literacy advocate. I'm an entrepreneur, and I love being a third of the Griots podcast host. Send it to my bros next.
All right, well I'll go. I'm Kofi Piesie. One of the other hosts of the Griot podcast. I'm a writer, an author, ghostwriter, a publisher, amongst other things.
Yeah. And bringing in that final leg, like in track and field, that last leg, give it a baton. The man showing people in the Sean P experience, sitting with the Griots podcast. Also, literacy and libations here in Lafayette, Louisiana. Community curator, master in psychology, educator, amongst other things. And we have a banging episode for y'all today. This is going to be a great, unique episode from the Griot podcast. Let's get to it, family.
Hey, yo.
All right. I like before we get started, I want to read the outline, my blind self, read the outline for today's show, and then we'll get into the opening segment. So the Griot outline for the podcast is opening segment honoring the teachers, scholars, writers, authors, and revolutionaries from the past or the present. That's by my fellow Griot, Seanathan Polidore. The Griot and Griots segment is followed up by myself. Commercial segment is just briefly promoting some of the things that we have got going on, products and services from other people, if need be. Discussion segment today. The name of this episode is just like music, right? So we're going to dive deep into the griot traditions, exploring the power of instruments like the Kora, the Balafon, and connect it all with the rise of jazz, blues, funks, and hip hop in the diaspora, right? We also have the woman segment. Again, I always stress this is one of my favorite segments of the podcast is the woman segment, where my sister briefly talks and gives flower to those who made major contributions or some value in the political world, writing world, author world, business world, medical world, and the academia world. That is follow up by my fellow Griot, Dr. Ashley Wade. Now that we have the outline laid out, we'll go directly into the opening segment. It's on you, my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this episode being just like music, I try to always find the opening segment to always honor the title of the show. And this time we have the jazz legend, Charlie Parker, right? Charlie Parker, the architect of bebop. Parker revolutionized jazz in the 1940s by helping to create bebop, a fast, complex, improvisational, heavy style that broke away from the danceable rhythm of swing. He was a saxophone genius. He played on the alto saxophone with lightning fast yet melodic, blending dizzying runs with emotional depth. He changed what people thought of that sax could ever do. He was a trailblazer and a tragic hero. His brilliance was matched by his personal struggles, addiction, and mental health issues. He had an early death at just 34 years old, man. That's crazy. 34 years young, man. Making him a mythic figure in American music. He was a cultural icon. He was called the Birds. Wasn't just a musician. He was also a symbol of black genius, innovation, and rebellion against mainstream expectations, influencing poets, painters, and thinkers beyond the world of jazz. His legacy that won't die. His music, classics like Coco and Now's the Time, still edges today. And he remains a North Star for anyone chasing freedom through sound. I want to recognize Charlie Parker. He's a big influence on a lot of our jazz and blues legends we had there after him. He was a mentor and a guide and a leading figure for a lot of people in the musical world, especially for black Southern artists. So Charlie Parker is our today's opening segment.
All right, all right. Um, Next segment is the griot, in the griotis segment. What is a griot? A griot is unique to Western Africa. The griot or jelly profession encompasses many roles. The griot also perform as griot, have been referred to as a historian, a genealogist, a spokesperson, an ambassador, a musician, a teacher, a warrior, an interpreter, praise singer, a master of ceremony, advisor, negotiator, and mediator. Not every griot does all those things, but these are all examples of the functions the griot uh, and the griotis play. I also want to that we didn't put in there, but it's in the following slide. But the griote also facilitates in some of those roles, but she also is a praise singer, right? So that is also attached to the griot and the griotis, which we'll talk about a little bit in this segment as well. Praise singer, but that is the conclusion of the griot and griotis segment. We'll move further into the commercial segment real quick. And, we'll continue to plug our new book. Well, it's still new. Uh, our Acting on Your Dreams and Vision. Let me pull it up. Here you go, right here. You're acting on your dreams and your vision, right? I'm proud of this piece of work that we put out. If you don't
Yeah,
have acting on your
yeah,
dreams and vision, definitely go cop it. Go to www.same3differentbrandspublishing.com or hit me up or hit Dr. Wade or Seanathan up, and they'll make sure that you get a copy.
right.
Also, the workbook. You don't
Yes,
have the
come on now.
workbook, go
Come
get the
on now.
workbook. Acting on your dreams and vision
Come on.
workbook, right?
Hey,
Uh,
Kofi, we got to say it real quick. The summertime coming up. The school year coming to a close. People want to have summer enrichment programs for the youth. They want to have homeschooling things for the youth. They're talking about all the schools that's leaving all the books and the curriculum and all that. It's time we educate our own, and having a workbook like we do is a great way to have materials that have questions already inside of it. All you gotta do is guide the discussion and let it do what it do, man. So I want to plug that in there while we're talking about that.
That's perfect, Sean. Perfect,
mhm.
perfect.
Yep, most definitely.
Resources.
Yes, yes. Also, if you don't have the audio book, Acting on Your Dreams and Vision audio book, also go to www.same2differentbrandspublishing.com. It is narrated by our brother D. Lewis and our sister Flo Davis, right? So go to www.same2differentbrandspublishing.com for those who you know, may not like to read the physical book, but may want the audio book, or those who may like to do what we all like to do on this platform and do immerse reading. And that's having the physical copy, reading the physical copy, and listening to the audio at the same damn time.
Hey, what time? What time, Kofi? What time?
At the same damn time.
Kofi said, let them know. Let them
The
know.
same damn time.
Also, Team RBG mixtape. I'm a member of Team RBG. So Team RBG mixtape, the RBG Gumbo mixtape, consists of the red, the black, and the green tape. If so go cop that. The Vengeance Radio online 365 is a station by Son the Great, who's also a member of Team RBG. So if you're looking for some substance, and you're tired of listening to the same old mess on the radio station, Vengeance Radio on Live 360 Radio. All you had to do is type in Vengeance Radio. Vengeance is VENJAH Live 360, and the radio station will pop up. That if you're looking for something that has a positive message, empowering Black people, that has some substance behind it, you know what I'm saying? It's not talking about destroying the community, but building the community up. Go check out Vengeance Radio along with Genius Level Radio. If Genius Level Radio is on Live 360 as well, by my brother Dun Dun. So if you're looking or you're into music that does not have any profanity, has professionalism in the music, and it has lyricism, Genius Level Radio is the radio station for you. So that concludes the commercial segment of this segment, unless my brother or my sister have something that they would, or someone else they would like to plug in the segment.
I just want to plug in that don't forget we have merch. Don't forget to go to the store. Tell them where to go to the store to get. We're gonna have more shirts coming up pretty soon. Some new colors, some new flavors. Man, we got a tank top, we got basketball shorts, we got slides. Again, the summertime coming. It's time to change it up. You want some dope gear for the summer? Go to the merch store, man. Tell them where to get it, Kofi.
Let me see if I don't think I got none of it pulled up on. I'm gonna have some on here next thing where they can look at some of the stuff. But yeah, it was on www.Mboka Family Connect Apparel. I had that apparel company for about 4 or 5 years. I just recently took it down, but you can go to, because I'm into sub branding. So everything sub branding, right? So we got Same Tree Different Branch Publishing, we got Same Tree Different Branch Media Company. Now we have Same Tree Different Branch Apparel. So go to Same Tree Different Branch or go to www.sametreedifferentbranchpublishing.com, click the apparel link, and all the apparel is in there. You have the book link for the literature. Now you have the apparel link and you have the media link. So click the apparel link and it'll pull up all of the apparel that we have on here. So get you some the Griot podcast apparel on that link.
Go ahead, get them slides and put them toes out. Let them toes breathe. Put them toes out.
Tis the season.
Tis
And
the
also,
season.
y'all, happy Indie Bookstore Day. It was yesterday. Happy Indie Bookstore Day. Independent bookstores all over the country got mad love. Shout out to anybody who patronized a Black-owned business, a Black-owned bookstore, especially an Afrocentric bookstore, if you have the ability to do so. Or if you did, get out there and support local bookstores, especially the Blacks, especially the Blacks. And, you can hit that link, Same Tree Different Branch Publishing, and, get you some books. Tap in, educate yourself, open your mind, connect with people. That's what this whole day, yesterday, was about, just connecting with strangers, conversations with strangers. So I just want to throw that in there to celebrate the indie bookstore owners and the opportunity to tap in on a deeper level with community through our bookstores.
I think I saw a stat somewhere that said that out of all the thousands of bookstores out there, only about 170 of them are Black owned. Mm-hmm. The whole nation, only 170 is a crazy number, man. But yes, for the 170, go out there, support somebody, go online, buy something, get a bookmark, get a pen, get something, get a bag, support these people.
Yes, we that's what I was gonna say, man. We have to support our black-owned businesses, man, especially these black-owned indie bookstores. You know what I'm saying? This is a literature podcast. You know what I'm saying? So go out and support them. You know, we need these things to continue to thrive in our community. The only way they can continue to thrive in our community and provide these services for us if we go out and we patronize these businesses. You know, and even if we don't have the funds to patronize these businesses, please tell someone, you know what I'm saying, about these businesses in
Yes.
the community, please.
Yes. Like they said, tell a friend, man.
Yes,
You can
sir.
share a page, like a page, comment, it don't cost nothing. Change the algorithm, you know what I'm saying? Share something.
And
Yeah.
they value relationships too. Before we move further, they value relationships. A lot of things we do are very transactional, in and out. But like, buy into supporting it, and being a part of their network and their community too. Because I think that's an area that we can all grow in. You know what I'm saying? Stop making things transactional, one way in, one way out, and just really build and tap in. See how you can be helpful. If you have something that a business or something you can present, tap in, and give your gift through those indie bookstores, because that's another part. We get a lot of our resources, our presentations and stuff like that, author interviews and stuff, come really much through independent bookstores, especially Black-owned ones. So shout out to them.
Yep. Shout out to the indie bookstores out there. All right, so let's get into the discussion, right? Today's discussion is just like music, right?
Just like it.
Just like music.
I didn't know you was gonna do that,
Don't
Kofi.
get me started, Cole. Don't get me started.
I figured it would be Sean. I didn't know it was gonna be
I was
Kofi.
in y'all DMs like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Cole said,
man.
what it called, son? What it called? What it
Yeah.
called, son? Just like music, baby. But no, on a serious note, let me set the table right quick, right? So I said to myself, to the squad, we just saw Sinners and everything last week. The whole world buzzing about Sinners, and my staff haven't seen it yet. I'm not gonna do no spoilers, but blues music is is a through line of the whole film. Is that deep South Mississippi, 1932, Kofi, that area. The blues music, you see how transformative it is. I say, it's a good time to talk about how much music transforms and empowers the community, even through hard times and hardships and tragedies. That was a black town. You saw how much autonomy they had amongst each other via the music, even doing sharecropping, doing convict leasing, all this stuff is going on in the movie. But at night, when it's time to turn up, it's time to turn up. Leave your kids behind when it's time for that. So I thought, through blues, through jazz, through funk, of course, R&B, and then hip hop, present day, the whole through line is starting off in Africa. The first scene in the movie, I'm texting Dr. Wade and Kofi in the first minute and a half. I'm like, bro, the griot. You see the African guy playing, I don't know the name of the instrument. You see the man playing the instrument off the top, and the narrator talking about the power we always had, spirituality in the musical realm, and how music pierced that veil between the seen and the unseen. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good time for Kofi kicking right there with the African part of it. In our book, The Modern Day Griot, the first chapter, talking about Africa and our ancestors and what they did with music and dance and spirituality, man. The clapping, the foot stomping, all these rhythmic things, they mean something.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. I was gonna try to pull out that book, Our Modern Day Griot, and another book. I'll get it in a minute. Two recommendation books, but yeah, I'm going to see the movie. Me and my wife going to see the movie tomorrow. It's only been showing one time here, and every day that's from 4 to 6. So we gonna go check it out tomorrow. For the first time and see what that's like.
It's so good, Coach. I'm going back tonight. After this, I'm going back tonight.
Are you going back tonight?
It's so much in it. You can't just watch it one time, bro.
Okay.
You can't just watch it one time.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. You can't just watch it one time. You're not that sharp. You can't watch it one time.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it, so I'm happy to be on the back end where everybody's like tapped in, they talking about it, and I'm gonna catch it next week because I've got to catch up at this point.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, and I'm quite sure whatever that instrument that they was playing the kora. We'll talk
That's
about
it.
that in a minute, the kora. So, you know, the roles of a griot, we know the roles of a griot has many roles. And a lot of us, you know, we know them as storytellers, right? And we'll talk about storytelling, and that's where the music part comes in to place, you know what I'm saying? So a griot is also a musician, you know what I'm saying? And at this particular time in the 21st century, that is the most popular role of a griot is a musician moving into the 21st century, right? But the griot, you know, has certain instruments that they play, and the griot teaches through storytelling, right? So the griot uses again the kora, the balafon, and the igoni. And I'll pull those three instruments up in a minute, but they use music as a form of storytelling and teaching, and that's through genealogy. That is through praising and critical rule, because we also have to talk about the griots. Most of the time, when you look at African culture, you see the griot or the griot and the griot. And the griot is singing. She is the praise singer. She's praise singing, and the griot is either playing the kora, which is the most popular instrument, which I'll show in a minute. Then you have the balafon, you have the ingoni. So you have praise or critical rulers. You have them through music, they're teaching about moral values, principles, edicts, and ethics through music, right? Also, celebration of life. So if you know anything about the rites of passages, there are also which I think we're going to talk about through my sister. You have the griots there, but you also have drumming there, right? So doing the rites of passage, the naming right, you also have where people are celebrating the life of this life that has come back from the ancestral world. The ancestors are returning, right? Is what they would say. So they would use music, you know what I'm saying, or play music for celebration and for rituals. You know what I'm saying? Whether different types of rituals that they are doing, right? They also use it for ancestral wisdom and etc. When it comes to the griot and griotis. Let me see if I can pull up here. I'm going to pull up something real quick. Let me do this.
Why he doing that? Pan African Connections Drum Circle. So Kofi, I'm just gonna jump in real quick. While you pull that up, that drum circle, the
Yeah,
drum so
yeah.
important. And there's the djembe. There's several different types of drums, but the djembe is a very common one used in drum circles. Pan African Connection specifically is what I wanted to talk about. They have an opportunity for a drum circle every single Sunday, so that's a ritual within itself. Every single Sunday at 3 o'clock, the community, anybody can come to that bookstore and play in a drum circle. It's really cool. So if
Yeah,
you have the opportunity, I can talk more about it later. I just wanted to holler at that while Kofi was pulling this up.
yeah, we definitely can talk about that in just a moment about the drums and how
Facts.
powerful the drums is, and you're talking about the drum rituals and celebration. So here I have this is one of the pages out of the Griot and Grioti's book. This is a book written by me and Sean. Um, might have been last year, year four. I don't know, man. We do so much.
Almost 3 years, Kofi. Almost three.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
Almost three.
you know what I'm saying? A highly recommended book. And it's another book that I'm gonna pull both books off the shelf and show you that book and another book as well that you also could get. But this book, it is you see the griot right here. He has a Kora. This is the most
Cobra.
thing. Anytime you pull up, and most of the time when you type in West Africa griot or griots, it's gonna always pull up an image of a male griot with this particular instruments. A lot of times you're not gonna see them with the balafon. A lot of times you're not gonna see them with the other instruments, the igoni, right? So this is the balafon. Let me show it a little bit. So here is a bigger picture of the Igoni. I mean, not the Igoni, but the Balafon. And this is another page in here where I break down the certain pieces of the Kora, right? And I can't see all of that right now. I'm telling you, I'm blind as hell. So if one of y'all could see that, y'all could kind of talk about the points that I got pointing to each section. Can Sean got the best eyes? Can you see that, Sean?
No, I can't go. It's small. It's small. I can't see it.
Hold on, let me see if I can blow.
can't
I
see it.
probably can't because I should have. Well, I can't because it's I got it inside of the studio. So if I
Yeah.
shared my screen, I could probably blow it up a little bit, but that's the biggest. So if you want to know each pinpoint of the Kora, if you got the Griot and Griots book, go to the page and look at it. If you don't have it, this is a great opportunity for you to go. And if you're interested in learning more about the Kora, then tap into S.3 differentbrandspublishing.com and get the modern day Griot and Griots book, because this is on, I don't know what page it's on. I think it's on page 37 or 38 in the book. I'm not sure, but this is another instrument that is played by the griot and the griots. This is the igoni right here. This is another instrument that the griot and griots play in particular, and they use it doesn't matter what type of storytelling that there is. This just is a music instrument that they use to create any or spark an emotion, whether they're teaching uh, the historicity of the culture, whether they're storytelling to the students to preserve their culture and their identity, whether they're celebrating life, and etc. Um, Also, you have the balafon. This is another instrument that the griot uses, which is the balafon. So you have the balafon, you have the igomi, and you have the most popular musical instrument, which is the kora. And again, that's most of the time, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see those particular instruments are used. So the kora, what does the kora? The kora historical preserves. It accompanies epics like epics of Sundiata, preserves centuries of oral history. So you will see them when they're also demonstrating or their oral history. And there's many ways to um, go into oral history. Oral history is not always about mouth to ear. So there is a methodology when it comes to their oral history, because a lot of times people, and I have done many presentations on oral tradition. And oral traditions, we hear so many people talk about oral tradition is from mouth to ear. And by the time it get to the seventh person, that the oral tradition is not the same as from the person who's speaking it. But this is also another method, is through the griot, is through music, do music, you know what I'm saying, playing certain instruments and storytelling or teaching in a particular way. There's other methods as well. It's also in the griot and griots, no, with the modern day griot and griots book. So if you don't have it, that's another way if you want to understand the methodology when it comes to oral tradition. Praise singing, which I talk about the griot. When she's singing, right, and the griot is playing one of those instruments, most of the time through praise singing, you have honoring the king, or some type of patron or elder inside of the community, the tribe, or clan. Also ancestry through melodic storytelling, right? So she can be singing and telling a story. This is also a way of storytelling and preserving certain things, or praising the ancestor, because inside of African culture and tradition, or what we call kimoyo, or what we're trying to push the word kimoyo and not African spirituality or African traditional religion, right? Ancestor veneration is an element, is a key to kimoyo, or if you want to use the word African spirituality, or if you want to use African traditional religion, right? And we know one of the thing is pouring libations. So another one, we always resort ancestor veneration with pouring libations. So now, if you don't know, praise singing is also another key element to ancestor veneration, or element to ancestor veneration within Kimoyo, or African traditional religion, or African spirituality. So you have the Griot who will sing with these different melodies. Meditation and spiritual healing is also used by the Griot and the Griots through music, right? Through instrumentation, right? Social commentary, right? Is also used through it. Also, in particular, one particular instrument, the Kora, is played doing this commentary, and that is through current events. You know what I'm saying? That is through metaphors, right? That is through highlighting moral lessons through the music, right? Entertaining, right? Entertaining, creating joy, and that can be used by the Balafon, the Ngoni, or the Kora is through entertaining, because we like to be entertained. And when we're talking about entertaining, African culture, we have so many different festivals. I know y'all may be particular with the Yams Festival, right? So, the Voodoo or the Voodoo Festival, right? So those festivals, there's tons of other festivals, where people are being entertained by the griot. Weddings are also in particular. We love to go to a wedding. There's gonna be singing and entertaining and food. Also, communal gathering is also another a form of entertaining by what the griot and the griots do as well. Let me take this off of here. Let's see if I can delete this. Yeah, but that's but yeah, that's it. For me, far as the functions and the roles of a griot and the griots, and I wanted to pull up the Balafon, the
Yeah,
Igoni, um, you know, and get people familiar with those instruments, as well as
yes,
what
sir.
the purpose of those instruments and the purpose of music from the griot, in particular, dealing from a cultural aspect.
Because Dr. Wade actually attends the drum circles and things of that nature. Matter of fact, I'm reading the book last night on jazz. It's a 900-page book on jazz. And I was showing in my Instagram stories a picture of the griot playing the drums and everything. But at a certain point in there, I'm gonna show it to Dr. Wade later on, they go into exactly why they do certain things in a circle, why certain things are in a semicircle, why certain things are linear. Everything has a rhyme and reason to it. But I want to ask Dr. Wade, whenever she attends these ceremonies, like, what do you get from it? I know it's a real major thing to you. What's your takeaways whenever you attend these ceremonies?
I mean, to me, thank you for asking. And I appreciate, again, Pan African Connection for having those regularly and letting people, I say lay people, because there are drummers there who are skilled, and there are drummers there who are part of the community. They just walk up, they come to the bookstore, they see what's going on, they're standing around. So what's important to me, so many parts, but mainly like the grounding and connecting with ancestors, sending that vibration up when you play. Baba Leo, so we were led by somebody, which is a cool thing, because you have to warm up, you have to learn. So there's all this breathing and grounding and connectivity that go into playing the drums. You learn the different Caribbean rhythms. You learn the different styles of movement while you play the drums. So it's a learning experience, but then it's also, like Kofi mentioned, real ancestral, real grounding, because you are sending vibrations up. And that's one thing that metaphysics talks a lot about. And unless you're into metaphysics when it comes to vibrations, and that being a form of communicating, then it may not hit you as hard. But ultimately, like when you create that frequency and you send that noise out in the form of music, right, it's still, the sound waves are vibrations. And that's a form of communicating and healing and relaxation, but also like the community part of it. There's ladies that come in and they dance. There's different handheld instruments that are going on. So it's literally a production. Every Sunday, it's literally a production. But again, there are kids that are dancing. Miss Alberta is there. She hula hoops. And so she may be there hula hooping. It's a whole communal opportunity to connect with energy through people. And it's so incredible as an experience. And I try to go as much as possible, at least twice a month. I can get over there and sit and play. And even if I can't, just be walking around the bookstore while the drums are going on, it's a vibe. You know, speaking of music, you know, we think about shopping in stores and we hear other types of background music, but it's so dope when you can hear like the drums in the background, the teaching, the learning that's going on. And when they catch a vibe and a rhythm, you can't help but, you know, get that bop into it. And I love that about, you know, us as people culturally. You know, we're talking about the empowerment that comes from our music and the way we do things. And so I immediately feel lighter when I'm done because I've gotten some energy out and sent some energy up, some vibration. But then I'm also uplifted because I know I've done something intentional for myself. Speaking of mental health, speaking of self-care, you know, I've done something intentional for myself that connects me to all this, to the spirit. So now I can go through my week, you know, uplifted based off the strength of our ancestors, our routines, our rituals, and things like that.
Yes,
Because
ma'am. Yes,
when
ma'am.
we talk about it, it seems so far away. Like our rituals way back then, it seems so far away. But if you can tap into the now in 2025, if there are places and spaces who are honoring those traditions, and you can tap in, please, and see what it does for your energy.
And we had mentioned our local black-owned spaces earlier, but it's good to reiterate it again. At the local area where I live at, around the Lafayette area, Lafayette, Louisiana, where I do the open mic poetry at, they also have African drum classes taking place there as well. And the OG is there teaching the youth about the drums and our culture and tradition. So wherever you live at, you know, go online, don't be lazy, and try to tap in and find somewhere. It might be driving distance around you where they might offer African dance. Because the same place, they have African dance as well at that place. A lot of things that happen in their culture. So all you gotta do is look for it. It might be there.
Right. And even if you just visit, if you go to Dallas, you know, or look for Afrocentric bookstores, because there's definitely a spectrum when it comes to Black-owned bookstores. I just found out there was like an independent bookstore that's like romance only in Dallas. It's a new store. So I'm just saying, like, there are different niches, just like there are different types of, you know, Black-owned bookstores. Specifically search for Afrocentric, because then that will kind of niche you down to places where you can get a curated experience like that. And when you can tap in, make it a part of your regular practice, your regular routine. I do my best to go at least a couple of times a month just so I can connect with it. And you build community, you meet people. So it's multifold, multi-layered, multifolded. And it is something that we did as far as our history, our ancestry, but it's something, if it's possible to tap into now, very, very enriching and empowering.
Yeah, and if y'all, you know, anybody that's listening, that's in the chat or may listen to this in the archives, it's either on this channel or it's on this channel, part one, and then or part one is probably on Mossy Warrior Clan, and then part two is on this channel I did years ago. This is my lane. This is my niche. So if you want to understand more about African culture when it comes to drumming, I talk about each drum. She mentioned the djembe drum, and and the griots, they don't use the drum, and the djembe comes from out of ancient Mali. This in particular, ancient Mali, and there is a term for those who play the djembe drums and those who play other drums. But if you want to understand the different drums, I talk about the different drums, the function of the different drums, the utilization of the different drums, and even I go into and I talk about the steel drum, or uh, uh, um, which is a drum that was used through slavery. That was drums began our culture of using this for celebration and evoking a spirit and praising the ancestors. In the United States, particularly became banned here, in particular because of the steel drum that we was using here for communication. So the name of that presentation is called I think it's something in the form, I can't remember, but the drum was the first form of communication. So we also use the drum to communicate with each other. So look this up. You can look up where when we was here in the United States, when they thought we was gathering in circles and we was playing the drums to celebrate, we was using the steel drum to communicate. So I talk about the different skins. Even when I showed you the Kora, I showed you the hole inside of the Kora that implements the sound, but it also have the wood, certain wood that was used in order to carry sound from miles away that they use also with the drums.
Now, Kofi, before they had telephones and cell phones and Wi-Fi and 5G, they would use the drum to communicate tribe to tribe, right? Nation to nation.
Yes, they would use
from miles away. They communicate.
Yes, look the steel drum up. Look
so
up.
in the book Roots, Alex Haley Roots, they mentioned that early in the book. They talked about that kind of a communication. That's in the Roots book.
And that was a reason why they banned it here in the United States, because they began to figure it out. Because when there was rebellions, you can also look up the Stono Rebellion in 1739, I think it was.
Yeah, they got a book written by Henry Louis Gates on that Stono Rebellion.
Yes, you can look that up. You can look up the particular things in the Congo Square in New Orleans.
Yep. New Orleans, Congo Square.
Yep. The Congo Square.
Right.
To verify these things so you won't say Kofi is making these stuff up. Yeah. But anyway, that was the first form of communication, because they was also alerting other plantations through the rhythm of playing the drum about a rebellion that was finna take place.
Yeah.
And once they figured it out, that's when they began to ban the African drums in the United States. So look these things up, but also go ahead.
Go, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, just to refer back, I have sources and all types of things. If you go to those presentations on this platform, you will see how in depth I go into and talk about the different particular instruments.
It's time for a good advertising moment right now. But those that's just coming across like Kofi via the Griot podcast and via Instagram the past couple of years, Kofi has an archive of like hundreds of presentations, probably on this channel and in the Masa Warrior Clan and other places too. You can just scroll for days on YouTube and find tons of lectures that Kofi did, full length, the slides and everything, resources, books. So let me toot your horn right quick, as they say, and do it for you. Go there and get your education on, man. Once again, the summertime coming up, you can get some real good resources right there on YouTube. Get you a group of young people, put the YouTube on the TV, and let them have at it, man. It's all there.
Appreciate that. Yep, go tap in. They go all the way back to 2015. That's how long I've been doing them. So it's not exaggerated. I got over hundreds. I was just sharing this with them too. Over hundreds of presentations, of lectures that's in my external hard drive that I was going through the other day. And you can go back in the archive and look from 2015 to 2021 is where I was going hard body on these things.
Hard body.
So, go check them out.
That means a lot more books coming out, Kofi. A lot more books coming.
I reckon so.
A lot more books coming.
Yeah, we go make something shake.
But no, I want to transition to the blues, right? So from Africa to the blues. Let's go. The blues begin in the late 19th century, roughly around 1870s to 1890s, in the deep South United States, especially in Mississippi. What a coincidence. Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. I didn't make that up. It was created by African Americans rooted in work songs, spirituals, field hollers, and folk ballads from the era of slavery and Reconstruction. The Delta Blues, a raw, emotional style of Mississippi Delta, is often considered the earliest recognizable form of blues. First published song, Dr. Wade, was called Dallas Blues in 1912. And the first recordings by blues artists started appearing in the early 1920s with Ma Rainey, y'all know on Netflix, with Viola Davis, Chadwick Boseman, his last performance is Ma Rainey's, right? Black Bottom. Bessie Smith and Blind Lemon Jefferson are amongst the pioneers of the blues tradition. And again, in the movie Sinners, we've seen the power of blues having on the culture, impacting things, changing things. And this whole podcast is about how over time, we always use music as a way to transform and empower ourselves. What's y'all take on the blues?
Man, I grew up off the blues, man. I was raised by my grandmother, and this expression, I'll be honest, growing up, I didn't like it because I'm like, you know, this is this was a form of what I'm saying, I guess showing uh stress, showing uh um 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 problematic things that was going on, but it was no different than what uh when we get into the hip hop section, it being birthed and certain things, the certain elements and certain keys with inside the culture, and we're talking about certain things and issues that was going on that was affecting us as a whole, as well as affecting us, what I'm saying, in our local community. So I remember listening to BB King, what I'm saying, and that was one of the most played blues singers that was in my grandmother household, what I'm saying? So we would listen to BB King. I like some of the songs, but but it was always talking about the struggle, what I'm saying? And I didn't understand it at a younger age, and I started to appreciate it and value it more, what I'm saying, once, I became a teenager and I started dabbling more into, hip hop and music, and I wanted to be a music producer and a rapper, and formed a group and started really trying to understand the purpose of music, and understanding that that was an outlet, what I'm saying, that was an outlet, and that was a outlet to also share informations on plights and struggles of an individual, or a struggle or of our own people. So I grew up off BB King.
Yo, when I think about the blues, I think about the cookouts. You ain't having no real cookout with your uncles and them sliding around in them
Hmm.
slides around the pit if it ain't no blues playing. If it ain't no blues playing at the cookout, I don't even know if I can eat the real. I don't even know if y'all gonna throw down on the pit or not. You know what I'm saying? If it ain't your uncle sliding around and with them little capri shorts on sliding around, I mean, to me,
With,
that's
with,
about,
with the church socks, though, with the
you
church
know what I'm
socks.
saying?
The church
That
socks.
out the house with a foil pan full of stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's the vibe I get, because that's where I heard the blues the most. I didn't grow
Hmm.
up with it. It was a little bit before my time.
Hmm.
It was a tad bit before my time, and so those are the times when I got to enjoy the blues music. And it was so much love going on too back then. You
Yeah,
know, they were telling their stories of relationships and stuff like that, and I didn't really
right.
necessarily realize that at the time. But when I get older and tap in, I'm like, they was really on some deep expression. Speaking
They
of
were.
expression and
Yes, they
empowerment,
were.
and I love the fact that we can go there as a culture, because a lot of times people don't have heart and soul in their music. You can tell it was just dry. Looking at the music that folks tried to steal from us, they took that what we created and then watered it down, so to speak. So again, the soul and the spirit that we add into our expression with the blues, especially,
Yeah.
baby, they was back there singing. They were singing.
And
But
just,
also, speaking of blues, Memphis. If you have not visited
yeah,
Memphis,
tap on that. Tap on that.
perfect place to explore the blues. Um, BB King has a spot, especially on Bill Street. Bill Street is
Bill Street,
great.
yes sir, yes ma'am, Bill Street.
And not to mention, Bill Street extends beyond. Keep in mind that small section that is highlighted. Bill Street goes further down. There's way more history
Mhm.
further down on Bill Street, but you're gonna get a chance to tap into the history and the culture. And I actually got a chance to tour the W.C. Handy Museum. His home is actually a museum. It's so dope. We got to visit his home on the Black History tour that we took, called the Heritage Tour in Memphis. Shout out to the Heritage Tour, that company. We got a chance to learn about him and what he did to set the path for blues. He considers himself the father of the blues. One thing that was memorable about the experience is that he created his own music publishing company. So even way back when we think about the blues, we think about a particular time setting, but we were having to get it on our own because, of course, people steal our rights. try to make sure that we didn't get paid. So I just love to connect with that energy around the blues, that singing, that love, the ballad type energy. But really, it gives me cookout vibes with the smoker and the blues. If it ain't playing, I don't know if I can eat over there. The potato salad is not good.
And
You can't. Your auntie didn't make it, but with the right mood, with that blues, you know you gonna have a good time. You know, especially in those country towns, 1 or 2 stoplights, there's a blues playing. It's a whole vibe.
Yeah, you then those y'all just, you know, with you and Sean talking, it just it brung back some of my good memories. I'm visualizing as you saying, and Sean talking about with your uncle with the long church socks and the shorts pulled all the way up to his calves, and you know, you talking about the fire pit going and the blues playing in the background, man. That was, you know what I'm saying? That was, you know, my childhood growing up, you know, as well, you know, and that was the center location was my grandmother's house. So we in the backyard and the grills and the fire pit is going, and you might have a deer hung up. My grandfather had a brick shed, and he had a long hook, and he would hang up either a goat or he would hang up a deer, and they were good. I'm talking about we out there and like it ain't nothing, and everybody's having a good time, and they doing it and cleaning, and they finna put it on this other grill. My grandmother had this big iron grill, and the blues is going, and everybody's having a good time, and the old folks is chopping it up and dancing. You know, most of us young folk, we just running around, we ain't playing, we ain't paying no attention, and you know, just having a great, you know, a great old time. And so that was a lot. What y'all talking about was a lot of my childhood experiences at my grandmother's house with the cookouts. You know what I'm saying? It was some of the best cookouts. Dang, you got me looking at it now when I go to somebody's barbecue.
I'm just saying.
They ain't playing no blues. I'm gonna have to leave now.
It's a sign of the times, though. You know what I'm saying? Because that era is, you got to be tapped in. If you don't know, you don't know. Because I don't know if I can go to and pull up a particular song. I would have to like tap into a playlist. But those who know. Like, you know, if you grew up in that era, you got your people that you can call out that are your favorites. Like Kofi said, BB King. Like that was a movement. That was a whole movement, and I can appreciate that blues era because it was, you know, some of them songs was slow. It slowed you down. It made you sit down and listen to the words. So
yeah,
it was all about.
Yeah. I'm gonna roll on, but it's a connection. This whole thing is one big conversation, actually. We're going to jazz next, right? So jazz began in the late 19th to early 20th century, around 1890s and 1910s in New Orleans, Louisiana. It emerged from a mix of African American music traditions like blues, ragtime, spirituals, work songs, blended with European harmonic and instrumental influences. Early jazz was deeply tied to the Black experience in the U.S., and its roots are closely linked to the end of slavery, Creole culture, and the diverse musical melting pot of New Orleans. The first jazz recording came about in 1917, but the style was already developing before that, especially in live performance scenes. And I want to say with the jazz and the blues, both of those, you got to talk about what's going on in the world and the U.S. around that time. Again, on the heels of slavery, is convict leasing, is Jim Crow, is segregated, all this stuff. So the music is coming out of these conditions. We can't separate the music from what was happening, what they were experiencing. So now we go forward to hip hop coming up next. We go to hip hop later on in the conversation. The music is always birthed from where they're coming from.
True.
And what's happening, the adversity, whatever they're overcoming, they're still trying to find joy and laughter and love and have a good time and be entertained despite what's going on in the day-to-day life. You know what I'm saying? I want to paint that picture, right?
And that's why the Congo Square, when you just mentioned New Orleans, is so important in New Orleans. So if you ever get a chance to go to New Orleans, y'all, please go visit the Congo Square.
I need to go ASAP. I haven't been to New Orleans in so long.
Yes. You know, and that was a place where, you know, a lot of them during slavery was allowed to go to these places. And this is where they was being entertained at. And a lot of this music that we're talking about was birthed coming out of the Congo Square. You know what I'm saying? So the Congo Square is is definitely important. You know what I'm saying? And through the ups and the downs and the strifes that our ancestors was going through, because a lot of times they were still enslaved. You know what I'm saying? Earlier during the Congo Square days, you know what I'm saying? This was a place where they can go and have fun. You know what I'm saying? And the birth of so many different things, different music elements came out of feedback. Okay, came out of that place, man. So definitely go tap into it.
And I wanna tie another aspect to the conversation too, right? You said for the African part, whenever they enslaved us and brought us over here, whenever they got wind of we use instruments to communicate, they pretty much stopped us from having drums, having certain instruments, right? We start using our bodies to make drums. We're gonna make a rhythm, using our bodies to make rhythm. We're gonna beat on something. We're gonna stomp our feet. We're gonna clap our hands. That's how those other things came about. We were improvising what we couldn't have in them. We're gonna find a way to do it. And then you go fast forward from that. Then you got what? You got bebop with the hip hop. Bang on the cafeteria table, bang on the school desk. We all seeing those things, but we see where that come from. The whole trajectory of this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed, man. We some multifaceted, talented people. You know what I'm saying? We'll take a little when they think they done took some away from them. We just figure out another way. We just figured out another way, man.
Yeah, we gonna get around it. We're gonna get around it. And I want to also have the spirituality conversation, right? Because you see a lot of times, I want to first say that most of these things, like they said in jazz and in blues, a part of it was birthed out of spirituality. It was birthed out of the spirituals. It was birthed out of those things. Some of our greatest musicians had their start probably in somebody's church. It took 10,000 hours to master a craft. They were playing 7 days a week at somebody's church, playing these instruments and singing to get their voice together, to get their stage presence together before they branched off. They was at church doing that, right? But the second part is a lot of times, whatever the secular music of the time was always heavily ostracized by the church. But there was blues, jazz, funk, R&B, whatever the music was at the time. The people in the church always felt like, that's the devil music. We not a part of that. We're not getting down with that. So that's a part of the conversation too.
It is, and it's not one that you can, address easily. But I love the fact that we can talk about here that it's that, right and wrong, going back to the tree of good and evil. You know what I'm saying? There's always, they thought that blues was made people too loose. You know how that go. I just say loose. But, I don't think that, the church had the opportunity to see that there's a duality of freedom that you can express. Like there's freedom. Yes, we need to learn. We need to be exposed. We need to be spiritual. But then I don't think they actually, came around to honoring the spirituality in the other forms of art that we have. And that is the blues. Yeah, we're going to turn up. We're going to dance. We're going to be close. We're going to be whatever. But like, to ostracize and judge, I don't know why that's so deeply ingrained in how the church sees other parts of like our expression. It's still us, it's still our cultural things, but I guess they felt like they had to separate themselves, and that's part of it too. So I'm glad that now here we are, fast forward to 2025. I feel like we are being able to see the duality, our generation. We still have the elders that are like, you can't do that if you a member of the church, you can't blah, blah, blah. But now I've seen more and more ministers being straightforward with their lives. Like they don't have to put up that air that I'm perfect if I'm your spiritual leader. Like I also play cards. I also sometimes have alcohol. Like that is okay to do. But I think it's difficult because we think, that judgment is coming. If we tap into the secular side to what's going on over there, whether it be blues and jazz, we can't go to the church. Speaking of The Color Purple, Suge Avery. We all know Suge. You know what I'm saying? She was so torn because she felt like she had to choose her loyalty. It's either through her dad in the church or who she was and who she was developing into. So again, like, shouldn't have to have all that condemnation. If that's a part of who a person is, she just has a beautiful voice. She likes to express that way. There's no reason that she should have had to, go through all that she went through. But it's common. Like you said, it's a common.
And again, not spoiling the movie, But a large through line in Sinners is the main character, the actual main character. He is the son of a preacher,
Ah,
and his daddy pretty much like, look, you next up. In most church tradition back in the day anyway, whenever your dad or your grandfather is a preacher, you automatically supposed to be the next one. Like MLK with his daddy, right?
why that is?
And
I
so
do not know.
the young man, like, man, I want to go do this. I want to hit the road and go do this. And the daddy, one of the most standout lines in the whole movie to me, the daddy says, son, you keep on dancing with the devil, he gonna follow you home. I love that line in the movie. You keep on dancing with the devil, keep on playing with that fire, he gonna follow you home. And it was like, you know what I'm saying?
But it's the propaganda of that sucks though. You know what I'm saying? To create that fear, and then they're not even considering what you might miss out on when you don't tap into that spiritual side of what we do, the dance, the music, all that invites spiritual energy. So to me, if you choose something that's low energy, you may have a low energy life experience. You know what I'm saying? Just wanted to add that 2 cents in there. You start tapping into other things that people consider taboo and out the norm, and you see your life elevate, and you're like, hold on, they told me not to do that. They told me, you know what I'm saying? That's dancing with the devil. He gonna follow you home. But I'm actually being elevated. So which one is it? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just want to throw that out there because it is important to consider, alternative, because I think jazz and the blues were considered alternative forms of
Yes.
expression. So even present day, consider alternative forms when it comes to certain practices.
Even besides the church ostracizing part, we have the ageism conversation always, right? Like whenever it was the jazz time, and then funk started coming around, and rock and roll started coming around, the generation at the time always felt like that next thing coming up is always a threat, right? So now we the old heads now, we the OGs now, and whatever coming up behind us, like, man, there ain't no real music, they ain't really saying nothing. They jacking all these old songs, and they refurbishing stuff that we already did. As every generation has always felt like that, through the centuries. It's one of those things, man.
We got a good question in the chat.
My man, Mr. Ladarius, Mr. LA,
Is that
too wealthy.
Is that a question?
It is,
Okay, thoughts on listening to certain songs,
depending on your mood.
or a mood you're trying to get into. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, to me, music is like a tool, right? And the best way to explain it is like in the workout, the physical world, the workout world. If I'm just running, for me personally, I most time play like R&B to run. I want to control my heart rate and my breathing. If I play hip hop when I'm running, I might go too hard, too early, right? Now, whenever I'm lifting hundreds of pounds of weight, it's not time for R&B music. Now it's time for the hip hop, the hardcore, the young Jeezy, the T.I., the 50. It's time for that. I'm trying to tap into this other primal bag, right? So depending on what I'm doing, of course, you want to play the appropriate thing, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like it. I like this here because this is how I listen. And especially when I want to connect with my higher self, I have a high self playlist. So everything on there is popping, it's uplifting, it's empowering, whether it's some Cardi, Sounds of Blackness, whatever it is, it's gonna put me in a place. That's one of my most curated playlists, is my high self playlist, because as you go through things, sometimes you need to be reminded. And that's another good tool that our music does. It can help you, you recall who you are, so you can get back on your feet, get back in your right energy to produce or, complete, do whatever you need to do. But I do like that mood music. I'm with that 100%.
I have a playlist when I'm doing public speaking. I have a playlist I made years ago. When I'm driving to the venue, I'm putting myself in a certain state of mind. I'm putting myself in a certain posture, if you will, right? So I got a workout playlist. I got a public speaking playlist. I got a chill playlist. I got some when I'm boxing. I got a boxing playlist. I got a running playlist. I got all these various things for whatever I'm doing at the time. It's a toolbox once again.
You know what I'm saying? Going back to those vibrations, sometimes you got to tune yourself, you know? So I do see where that is important as far as like your mood, the types of songs that you listen to, the things that you hear, those mantras, that's all important when you're regulating your mood. That's an excellent, excellent point there.
Putting you in that trance.
Mm-hmm.
In that trance. That's definitely what I do when I want to get put in a trance. I listen to some upbeat, inspirational, motivational type of music. It doesn't matter for me. I'm a hip hop head, but it doesn't matter. You know, I'll tap into various things, like if I'm trying to be inspired, if I'm trying to be uplifted, or I'm trying to be motivated. You know what I'm saying? Like I got, songs. Um, well, I may play, it may be um R&B, it may be hip hop, it may be neo soul, it may be Afro beats. It just all depends on what type of mood I'm in, and all of them. But most of the time, for me, it's got to be upbeat. It's got to be inspirational. It's got to be motivational. You know what I'm saying? Keep me motivated, keep me uplifted, keep me inspired, keep me in that trance of I can do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm that one. You know what I'm saying? Let's get the job done. I want to achieve this. I want to put myself in a position to put other people in a position. So I need that type of in music, or that type of frequency to keep me motivated, to keep me going. But I need to find something that'll put me to sleep.
Oh yeah, those frequencies, chakra frequencies and stuff like that.
Yes,
Don't get
indeed.
me started. I'll be like, you'll be
Yes,
asleep.
yes, yes. And let's go to hip hop, right? Let's go to our current day hip hop. So we know the late 1970s, early 80s. Again, it always comes from a place of necessity, right? So the government is doing all this changing. Reaganomics is happening. The war on drugs, all this poverty, predominantly in New York, right? You have all these people getting forced into the housing project. All these folks living on top of each other in these crowded places. Once again, the schools taking out the instruments. So they had all these jazz programs and blues programs, schools putting out instruments. So now the youth of that day, they're finding other ways to make music and take their mom and dad record players and they scratching up records. They're taking the old jazz music and repurposing it, remixing it, doing something different with it. And now we have our present current day R&B. I mean, our current day hip hop. This is my question for the panel for this whole entire podcast. We're talking about over time the power of music to galvanize the community, motivate, uplift. Some of our biggest protests, they had the music playing for the protest to energize the people. We understand the power of music. The artists of today, the hip hop artists of today, is there a responsibility to bear whenever they're making this music? And Kofi, you're a producer, you're an engineer, you make songs. You understand the power in putting certain hertz on the music, certain megahertz for a certain beat rhythm, the power of the instrumentation, the 808 drums and all that. Dr. Wisdom Muhammad got a whole presentation on the 808. I love that presentation, breaking down trap music. And then the power of the words on top of anything. The power on top of what you speaking in the life and death in the tongue, what you saying on that track, the responsibility of the artist. What do y'all think about that in today's current music?
Yes, they'll put it on that they don't have a responsibility, but they definitely have a responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Going back again, we're talking about frequencies. We're talking about trance. We're talking about mood, right? We're talking about all these different things. So they do have a responsibility. There is power in the tongue, whether you believe it, but you have to match it up. You know what I'm saying? Thoughts become actions, and action becomes words, where words become actions, right? So there are responsibilities that need to be taking place when people are presenting their art, right? So when you're presenting, because now the climate is we're presenting the art as being drug heads. So we're promoting a drink. You know what I'm saying? We're promoting heroin. We're promoting lean. We're promoting Percocets. we're promoting all these different drugs. We're promoting fentanyl, which is killing us today. You know what I'm saying? Which fentanyl is, and a lot of the rappers are talking about fentanyl a lot. You know what I'm saying? And now you're creating a mood of people wanting to engage in drugs. Just look at some of the artists that was killed. Like we go back to Future. Future, I don't respect Future because Future talks about drugs, and it's crazy because I in a book that I'm writing right now. I just talked about this in a book. One of the chapters I talked about. So I'm talking about Future and how what's the young rapper name from Chicago? World. What is his name? I can't think of his name. I know it's World in there. It's escaping my name. But anyway, he got influenced by Future music,
His
right?
name like Juice WRLD, something like that?
Juice WRLD, right?
The guy that he passed, right?
He passed. He had an overdose. And he had a seizure.
Yes.
You know, taking all these drugs, and he
Yeah.
passed. But before he passed, he talked about how he was influenced by listening to Future music and how Future talked about drugs and how cool it was to drugs. So I'm saying he began to listen to this music so much that he begins to become entranced by this music, you know what I'm saying, and thought it was cool. And now he starts to get on these drugs. Even the same thing, we look like another rapper, not Macklemore, but Max. It's a lot of this stuff is escaping my mind. Mac Miller, and so many other people. I highlight these people in this chapter of people overdosing on drugs, and it was all because of certain other artists that they listened to coming up. You know what I'm saying? Tapping in on that frequency. You know what I'm saying? Of being now. That genre, it's a genre by itself. Being a drug addict, I'm saying it's a genre within itself, because that is what most of our youth are talking about right now, is being a drug dealer. Even not a drug dealer, but being a drug addict. Even the people that we're listening to, like a Rick Ross and a Young Jeezy and a T.I. and so forth, talked about drug dealing, talked about the trap, right? Emphasizing the trap. So we popularized death. We popularized I have no other option. And I use this in that chapter too. I talked about Kumo D. Kumo D talked about in an interview how the drug dealer is the first sellout in the community, right? And I'm saying that the first are the people who took the drug element in the streets and started putting it behind certain frequencies and music. Now they become the first sellout in music as well as in Black culture, because now they're pushing deaf culture on our people, right? And it's influencing people. And I'll be honest, listening to Young Jeezy, listening to T.I., listening to one of my favorite songs was I Got a Pocket Full of Stones by UGK, right? So listening to those songs and how they made it cool and how they put visuals behind it, and then how I was able to see the street element in real time, because when I stayed with my grandmother, I stayed in a place that they call Italy Cartel. So at a young age, I seen a person get shot to death. At an early age, right before my grandmother bought the cleaners right next to us, picnic cleaners, I seen a man rob it and then get shot to death. My grandmother had a cafe. I seen people hang out on the side of that cafe and sell drugs and drive up through there in fancy cars. So it influenced me by the street element, by me looking at it and then listening to those artists promote it. And I didn't have that to do, and it influenced me or put me in a trance where now I want to be in that same category as a drug dealer and destroy my community by tearing it down. You know, even though I didn't have, my story wasn't, I was poor. My grandmother had land. They had apartment complexes. They had, a lumber company. They bought the picnic cleaners. They had a cafe. So we didn't go without, but most of the people talk about how they didn't have no choice. But in order to feed my family, you want to kill my family. And that is promoted inside of the music and the music climate in the early, I'm gonna say the early 90s on forth until the drug addict, you know what I'm saying, the drug addict came in, even the gangbanger and the gangbanging, we killing each other. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing. Drill music, that's op music. That is destroying another person that looks just like you, or you're destroying the same person, right?
Yeah.
Nipsey talk about that. Nipsey talk about that. How look at how we have to unpack that. You're finna go kill you. So, and what he was saying was, you finna go kill the same person that dresses just like you, that has that same wop and bop just like you. You finna go down the street and kill your own self, somebody that resembles you. So they definitely have a responsibility.
We gotta speak on something too with this whole podcast. So for those that this is a literature podcast, right? It's a literature podcast. We're not just talking from the hip. We got plenty of publications. I've been all week digging through all these publications of various sorts. We're not just going from the hip, just talking. We got publications, and they got plenty more I couldn't even bring over here, right? In the early 90s, whenever the hip hop was more positive, right? These executives really sat these guys down for real. Like, look, we're gonna start talking about this in the music. And some of the OG, you can find podcasts, them guys talking about it. Those OGs that was trying to do positive music, when they were sat down, like, look, we'll start having all this alcohol promoted in the music. We're gonna have this brand in the music, that brand. Hip hop wasn't like that before. But after that point, and now you got to insert all of these brands and labels. Now you got to have Ace of Spade and Douce and Hypnotic and all this other Grey Goose. All this stuff we getting woven to the music, right? All these blunts and Black and Miles and Phillies, and that wasn't in the music like it was after that point, right? So we got to always talk about the billion-dollar corporation that used us on us, right?
Yeah. And even when we talk about frequencies, they even the businesses has understand when it comes to the frequency in the musics and setting the different hertz at a different style. Then when you go in a grocery store and you hear that music in the background, it's set at certain hertz in order for it to invoke you to shop. You go in there for one thing, you come out of there, but it has something to do with the frequency and the hertz.
Kofi, we the only ones that'll say, oh man, that's not true. That's not true. But all these billion-dollar companies, they don't care if you think it's true or not. They're gonna use it. That same sacred science, they don't care if you believe it or not. They're gonna use it. It sets a service to make you want to shop. The whole store layout, as far as the psychology of it, the visual of it, the smells, the sounds, everything in there is made to make you swipe that card, man. So why wouldn't we use that same technology, that same science for a positive reason?
Yep.
I mean, it's interesting to talk about, especially on one arm, considering like the negativity, the violence, the drugs, like all that. Unfortunately, that's literally people's live life, and that's what they choose to express. And unfortunately, it does have impact on others. It does have impact on youth people. I'm definitely not at all even close saying the right or wrong. I'm not going that particular place because it's kind of weird, because sometimes these artists now use music to express. I've heard it said that, I'm getting paid for reading my journal. So like there's this element still of self-expression maybe, but then there's all this, the propaganda that goes into it too, to Kofi's point. Like, okay, it's not beneficial. Is it you getting it off your chest? You telling about your lifestyle? Maybe, but it's like, it's the glorification of it that really messes with these kids, and they think this is the cool thing to do, or I want to be just like them. But that also speaks to like the communities may or may not be leading their kids to have decent role models, because their balance is everything. When in my opinion, balance If you're gonna listen to the music, then you should be able to read. How many times do we have to say that over and over? You can quote every Cardi B lyric or whatever, but you can't read. So like the balance of, okay, listening to somebody's art, and then also having those outside positive influence, those other positive influences that may be able to counter that need to go be like somebody or be like somebody else. Speaking of self-discovery, because like you said, in the 80s and early 90s, there was a lot of self-determination going on in that time period too. We're missing that. Now on the women empowerment piece, the women getting theirs. Now there is still some profanity. There's still, the over sexualization, but at the end of the day, it's empowerment, it's expression, and it's all about the perspective. Now, if somebody listens to Cardi, what I think the weirder part to me when it comes to the female empowerment piece is like the physical look. We in this BBL season, we in a body dysmorphia season where everybody got to have some work done, a lip filler, Botox or something. And I think that has been the negative impact of the women empowerment movement through music. But ultimately, I love, especially within hip hop, to see the progression and the number now of so many dope ass female rappers and artists. From when I was growing up, you had maybe the one or two. You had the Foxy Brown, you had the Lil' Kim. You know what I'm saying? You had the Remy. Now we have a slew of amazing dope ass artists. Now, yeah, is it on the ratchet side? Yes. Am I mad about it? No. Because that is part of the culture, the duality of the Black woman piece. We got the rah-rah. You gonna listen to us, you gonna see us, you gonna hear us. And then we also have, the India pieces. There's so many parts of us that we can contain. But that's why I mentioned like the balance of it.
Yeah. And doing this whole research for this podcast, man, this Beyonce book is called Beyonce Information: Remixing Black Feminism, right? So I spend way more time reading on the female side of the house versus the guy side because, of course, I'm a guy. It's my lived experience. I'm trying to learn about the other side. So, yeah, Dr. Wade is the ultimate. Of course, she's the woman on the staff. She's the lady in the house to give us the input on the woman side of hip hop, the empowerment side, the enrichment side, and the liberation. Give us the education on that.
I mean, we've seen it. Those of us who are of a certain age, you know what I'm saying? We've seen the progression. We've seen maybe the negative impacts as far as like dress, as far as like the culture of sleeping around, that type of thing. But part of that is because we were sheltered so much. 20s, we just were able to vote at certain, like late in the development of the countries. 20s, 30s, white women could vote. There's so much that has taken place through hip hop and through the progression of our music that now I'm proud of the Glorrillas and the Lottos. And is it ratchet? Yeah, but like look how far we've come on what we're expressing. And then not only that, but to see the integration. We just had Kamala Harris, her campaign, and she involved people like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and Beyonce. So like we're now to the place where we can show more of ourselves and we can show more of like the different parts of what make the female culture specifically so unique, and what we say, how we do it, how we communicate. And it's effective because if you look at the outcome, you see who showed up at, in certain places. So again, like the outcomes can be positive with those influences, but it's just how that, they're used and like the application of what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, if I'm trying to enrich myself or get myself back up to my high energy, I'm definitely turning on Megan. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to those places, but at the same time, I'm also honoring the longevity of the work that's gone in and the pioneers of the industry who set the stage. So now that, Megan can do some work with Queen Latifah. I don't know if y'all saw that on that Coachella performance with Megan Thee Stallion. She brought out Queen Latifah. So there is a lot of merging that's taking place with the culture, and I love to see that. So they're not saying this is the new wave. They're saying they're honoring the people who have set the stage for them to be able to talk shit like they want to talk shit. If they wouldn't know Queen Latifah, we wouldn't have no Cardis and no Megans. You know what I'm saying? No MC Light. If it weren't for MC Light, we wouldn't have this far of a progression of what women can say, how they can be. They talk about WAP and stuff, and that was a discussion. But we can go in the weeds on that. But sometimes we need to have that freedom of expression. But then balance.
I can't. I'll be honest with you. I can't stand. I can't stand Megan Thee Stallion. I can't stand Cardi B. Gorilla. I like the Gorilla, but now through this industry, now she done went and had a metamorphosis on her body as well, and now she's presenting herself more. I just don't like the being more promiscuous. You know what I'm saying? Over sexualizing yourself because these white industry execs are telling these black women this is what you supposed to look like in order to sell records. We ain't you're going to get more people to buy your records by what you look like. You know what I'm saying? There's been conversations and talks about how black women are supposed to look in music. So a lot of times other women are get looked over if they don't have a certain body type because they know sex is going to sell. It don't matter if they got a fire beat and they spitting, you know what I'm saying? The people are going to buy into what the artist is actually looking like. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to buy in a little bit to what they are saying. I just, I got daughters and I just don't like, you know what I'm saying, them, talking about having sex with several or 8 different men and, or I can't, if you rather pass on a person like me that has a small business or a couple of small businesses and also have a regular job that has 6 or 7 different incomes coming in, but he's not in a 6-figure status. You don't want to fool with me. You want to go after somebody that has the bag that is a millionaire that can, you know what I'm saying, fund the lifestyle that you say. I don't know. I just don't like that. And like MC Light, you mentioned MC Light, you mentioned Queen Latifah.
Mhm.
We can't forget about Roxanne, Shantae, and there's a few other, artists that came along, that we could mention. But those were, for me, was I grew up off of those women, and there was more into the empowerment side of, or the empowerment expression side of a women. You know what I'm saying? Women are empowered, women are intelligent, women are beautiful without alterating something on themselves. Women are empowered without you know over sexualizing, their sex, their lives. And that's what the message was with Light, Queen Latifah, and Roxanne. Now, MC Light later on, when the early 90s came in, you had NWA who jumped on the scene when you started getting the parental advisement on the labels or explicit lyrics. You know what I'm saying? When that started, when people started expressing themselves, or we created the genre of hardcore, and NWA and all these other artists that was up under that umbrella, Cypress Hill, Above the Law, Ice Cube when he came out with the Lynch Mob, and et cetera, this hardcore hip hop, then she began to resort into the same thing. She created a whole album that was strictly hardcore. You know what I'm saying? One of the songs in particular, I like the song, is a Roughneck. I want a roughneck. I don't know if y'all remember the song, but
Yeah.
it's hard now. It's hard. You know what I'm saying? It's hard, and but but like you say, it's gotta be balanced because I'm gonna keep it all the way 100 too. I still listen to, I listen more to the Vengeance radio station, and I listen to a lot of other artists that promotes uh Garveyism, Pan-Africanism, Black Power, Black nationalists, and other things in that thing when it comes to us in particular, that talks about the social ills and the plights of people, Black people in America, and people who are not in America, you know what I'm saying? Continental Africans, what's going on in the Caribbean, and et cetera, et cetera. But I still listen to T.I. is one of my favorite rappers. So I still listen to old hip hop T.I. You know what I'm saying? I listen to T.I. I still listen to little bit of Young Jeezy. I like Big Mike. I listen to Big Mike. And that's something also when you talk about balance. You're gonna get all of that in Big Mike. You're gonna get the ratchet, you're gonna get the ghetto, you're gonna get social and political, you're gonna get economics, so he's got a
You know,
whole round when it comes to his music. But go ahead.
I like this one interview that T.I. had on the Breakfast Club, I think it was. Somebody asked him, they was like, man, you an activist? Are you a hustler? Are you a family man? Are you a playboy? And he was like, man, I'm all of the above, man. I'm not like one thing. He was like, man, I'm gonna go in the studio and do some fire-ass songs today. I will go and lead a boycott at 3 o'clock. If you play with me, I'm gonna slap the fire out your ass. And I'm gonna go home to my own lady and tuck my kids in. Like I'm not one of those things. I like the multi-facetedness. And so many times in society, they want to put you in one particular box and like that's it. Instead of being a multi-faceted, a full human being, having the full experience. So like you said, a Killer Mike will give you everything. T.I. will give you everything. Some of these artists, J. Cole, some of these guys, Kendrick, you getting everything. You know what I'm saying?
Give you lots of good stuff, lots of good music. But I think too, like I think for women specifically, we typically don't get a chance to talk about certain things, or we don't really get a chance to embrace certain parts of being a woman. I learned a lot about this at the Zora Neale Hurston Summit. Just in general, talking about pleasure, talking about certain things, it goes back to those things that separate us. It's those taboo pieces. But again, when it's going back to liberation, we do have to be able to accept different forms of what that means for certain people, certain cultures, certain genres. Because for women, and they can express their sexuality, they can express their sexual fluidity. They should be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because there should be a level of freedom that we have, and we have been contained so much. Everybody want to speak on what a woman is doing, what not doing, what she wearing, but that's not going to stop her from being sexualized. People were still looking at Queen Latifah. You know what I'm saying? Even though she had everything covered up, even the brat, people was looking at her, men and women. I mean, so there's no necessarily way that you're going to prevent that. I think I understand and I honor that it's uncomfortable to see, especially if you have kids, if you have young people, especially young girls, and they want to emulate that. I definitely see that as being a problem. So I'm not trying to front or circumvent that whole point. But the empowerment piece is important. The femininity piece is important. The expression piece is important. The self-discovery part is important. Like, how loud and proud can you be in your womanhood? But then again, that balance piece is important, because the girl that's want to be Cardi B, I'm gonna be like, okay, well, what's your grades? What you looking like? What books you reading? We going to volunteer as well, so you can see that that's a lifestyle that you don't necessarily have to have or strive for. And I think those conversations could be beneficial in our communities, period, with young people.
Yeah. And that balance part is important, right? Because Kofi mentioned earlier his childhood. I'm not that far behind about that time frame. About it was heavy drug dealing, gangster rap for sure at that time, 1990s and whatnot. Everything was like that. But of course, my household was incredibly different than that. The life in which I live was incredibly different than that. For some reason, I was able to hear that music and enjoy it, but not try to go and like play it out in my real life, right? I can play Snoop Dogg all day in my headphones talking about gin and juice. I don't want to drink gin and juice. I mean, Tupac talking about Tangerine, LA, blow your mind. I don't want no Tangerine, Alizé, but every person can't separate entertainment, quotation, from real life. It's just entertainment. And some of the folks, they want to hear it. Oh man, I saw the BT video. He had Alizé. I gotta go buy some Alizé. Like,
right.
And that's on your parents or your parenting skills separating from your child this from real life. You know what I'm saying?
I couldn't escape it. I mean, I lived in an area, even though my grandmother and them, they had money. You know what I'm saying? They had money, but my grandmother's house was in a place again that was called Italy Cartel, and my grandmother had apartment complexes surrounding around her house in like a circle. Apartments on one side, apartments on another side, apartments in the back, a cafe, an alley in between the cafe. You had funeral home where my best friend family owned the funeral home, and then the cleaners. Eventually, when my grandmother bought out the Pinckneys from and obtained the cleaners. But so in that traction was I seen Black entrepreneurship, but I also seen people who carried guns. This was I seen this. This was my everyday life. When I walk outside of my grandmother's house, even she had a fence up, I still can see people. I can see drug dealers doing transactions. I can see individuals carrying guns. My grandfather carried guns and shot at drug dealers for being on the apartment, their apartment property, and wasn't in the alley on the other. So I just seen this. I seen people robbing, the cleaners or the store right up the street and running right down the street, and the police shooting them down or grabbing them. And so I couldn't escape it. So me seeing this in the everyday life, even though I come from a family that got money, but my reality is I see drug dealers. I done seen at a young age 2 individuals get shot and killed in front of my eyes. I seen somebody take his last breath, and me seeing this, and then me being me becoming a lover of music, and me seeing people demonstrate their art are conveying in their art about the very things that I'm seeing, and how they're making it popularized by the videos, and how they are spitting their lyrics, and then me seeing it, I got wrapped up in it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't,
It's tough.
So
I got lucky. I got blessed. that was a blessing. I just got blessed on that. Yeah, I think that time too, besides the music, Boys in the Hood just came out. Boys in the Hood, Minister Society, Jew,
yes,
South Central,
Colors, man,
HBO series, The Wire.
Right, The Wire.
Like this is all simultaneous, bro. So like,
yep.
How in the world did I come out unscathed? I don't know. Besides God Himself.
I think that's a testimony for us all. You know,
that is testimony. How did I make it unscathed? I don't know.
It all could have been a different way for sure.
It could have been a different way for all of us, man.
Yeah,
all of us.
But part of that is the learned experience, because lastly, my last thing is there's this verse in the Coburn Bible. I like to bring this up whenever I get a chance, that no life is without conflict. So, we can have the best pristine conditions, especially when it comes to our music and the presentation of it, and still not be able to circumvent the reality of poverty, the reality of the projects, drugs. I mean, because it's supported, to Kofi's earlier point, it's been supported by so many industries. Our demise is supported by so many industries. And it is important to have that balance of artists that bring about change, artists that, we can see them actually doing positive things. But ultimately, like, no life is without conflict. So maybe, the story of a person's life that they share is the way that they are going to have to learn to be better, or learn that they don't have to tap into a certain lifestyle. Sometimes those are hard lessons, jail, prison. But sometimes, like we said, we can circumvent some stuff, and it's like, oh, I survived that. I learned my lesson. Let me get out of that situation. Let me stop doing these things, or let me tell somebody, just grow from those things, because, there's going to always be certain environments, and how you live through those, how you grow through those, even with all the stimuli, right? Because it's the visual, it's the music, it's all these stimuli. Like, how are you going to, survive and deal with your conflict, even if it comes through what's going on in your neighborhood? So
I think
I'm glad y'all survived. Shout out to I'm glad.
I know, right? we survived. And going forward, because it's always about progression with this podcast, right? About like anybody watching the podcast, if you're a writer at all, and we're writers, and we're poets, we're a lot of things. I'm always super conscious when I'm writing. Even whenever I'm writing hip hop, I'm always super conscious of what I'm saying. And to me, the mark of a real hip hop artist, can you still be dope and say something real slick? It don't have to be gun bars. It don't have to be drug dealing bars. It ain't got to be about disrespecting a woman bars. But it's still dope. It's still fire. It's still hot. That's a real artist to me. I love doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I guess we've been on. Let's
Dr. Wade, the woman.
Yes, let's hit that woman.
The heart of a woman.
Out in here. So again, I had an amazing time yesterday at Pan African Connection. They, during the book crawl or celebrating Indie Bookstore Day, there were about 6 or 7 stores locally who had celebrations. Local stores, independent bookstores that had celebration. I want to celebrate Akwete Tahimba. She is the owner and matriarch of Pan African Connection, and she does so many amazing things. And she's a living legend. Last episode, we talked about a living legend, Miss Turner from Memphis. And so I love to be able to highlight women doing amazing things. Miss Akwete, the vision of the bookstore, the concept of the bookstore started with her husband. It didn't even start with her. Um, and I love that she always remembers him. He passed away, so they lost him at a certain point. So there, I mean, when he passed away, she literally had no obligation to keep it going, to keep it open, or to fight for it necessarily. But those principles, those Afrocentric principles of community, Ubuntu, growing together, learning together, were also instilled in her. And so she kept the store open. It had changed locations over the years because the location where it is, it wasn't always there. But she's grown into it, set her family up through it. You know, all her children are entrepreneurs in their own right. So, like, and you would think that because she's done amazing things and set the community a staple with that bookstore, that she would have airs. She has no airs about her. She's always putting people on. You can get your book in her store easy, your work in her store easy. And that's not to say that there are no constraints, you know, or limits, but at the same time, like, it's very community centered, and it starts from her. It starts from the matriarch, the community centered piece. The standard that she set for what it means to give back looks totally different because she's doing what she's doing. Now she's focused on the Ubuntu farm. So there's a whole farm that she works with the group in Fort Worth, and that's where she puts a lot of her energy in. And it's beautiful to see. So you may not see her always at the bookstore. If she's not at the bookstore, she's at the farm. So again, just being that community staple, she's honored. She's always teaching. When Kwanzaa comes around, she's gonna be at all the schools teaching. She's gonna take the drums and have her team. With Black History Month, all those things, like, she's a staple. People want to interview her and honor her, and she's still so humble, and she still believes in I can because you are. You know what I'm saying? She deliberately lives her life that way. She uplifts the community that way. If there are any entrepreneurs, when it comes to the markets that they have, even to be able to do business there is a very reasonable, like, vending fee, so to speak. And it's just the culture that, you know, she lives up to this particular standard of honoring her ancestors and honoring the people who have come through there and passed away. I mean, she's been connected with the Panthers and a lot of the movements that have been able to have meetings there. Even now, there's meetings going on and documentaries, and she's leading some things, but she's in the background on other things. And then she's a grandparent. So just watching the modality of her and what she does and how centered she is in the community, I wanted to make sure I uplifted her name today. Akwete Tahimba. She's the owner of Pan African Connection, the matriarch. Lots of businesses would not have started if it wasn't for her vision. Lots of community organizations would not have started if it wasn't for her support through her business, through the bookstore. So I wanted to lift up her name. She's amazing. She's beautiful, by the way. But she's also an amazing, caring person, and I wanted to uplift her during the women's segment today.
Yes, yes. Shout out to her. I had
Salute.
pleasure of meeting her. You know what I'm saying, and
That's what's up.
Come on,
talking.
pleasure.
You know,
What was she like? Describe
man,
her demeanor, Kofi.
man.
How was she? How would you describe her?
She was real down to earth. You know what I'm saying. Real acceptable, because I mean, she didn't have to, let me do a book signing there. She didn't know me off the rip, just went off the strength of what you said and say, sure, you can come down here. We're gonna block it out. We're gonna give you this amount of time. You go out here and
Man, that's hot, bro. That's
she
hot.
wasn't standoffish. I was able to talk to her and pick her brain for a few minutes on a certain thing. This is when I had the ideal about doing a bookstore. My vision done totally changed since then. But she was willing to talk to me, and she was telling me anytime I wanted to reach back out to her for any other type of information, holler at her. She introduced me to her son, who was at the back of the store, the back. Yeah, he was selling clothes or whatever. He was real cool. He was talking to me, and telling me about some of the stuff that he had going on with his clothes, and so she's, what I'm saying, like I said, she's she presented herself, well, and look good. I mean, look good to be
She
her
runs
age too.
miles, runs.
Yeah,
She's a
yeah,
marathon runner. So
yeah,
like you wonder
yeah,
how she has the time and energy to
yeah,
do all the things.
yeah.
She eats healthy, she takes care of her
Mhm.
body, especially she has
Yep.
her own personal farm,
Mhm.
her own personal garden, and then she contributes to the community garden. And last thing I will say about her, she's very affectionate.
Yeah.
And she's very supportive of people in general, of our people, because she believes in that. But in order to wiggle your way a little bit in more to her liking, she's really supportive of that Afrocentric piece, that activism piece. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think there is enough of that, because these young people and us who are out here doing the work, we need support.
Yeah. I'm
That's
coming back. I'm coming back, man,
most
this
people
year.
will shun away that activism. Oh, just come
Yeah.
here and do poetry. Oh,
Mhm.
just come in here and do
Mhm.
whatever. But there's not a lot of safe spaces where activism and organizing can take place. And
Yeah.
that's why PAC is such a staple. It's been that way.
Mhm.
It's been that way for years. And so this new generation of organizers has places where they do book clubs and they have conversations. We still have the OGs coming through giving presentations on different things. And that's all under her leadership. And again, all her kids are successful. It's a beautiful thing to see. So, and it's led and directed by Miss Equate.
Yeah, I'm definitely coming back because she
Oh,
she was inviting me to the drum session they was having, and I told her that late that
It
evening.
was
I
that
told her,
Sunday because I think
yeah,
y'all left on
yeah,
Saturday.
we left that Sunday morning. We left about 1 that Sunday. I think it was like at 6 or
At
something that
3.
evening, 3. And I told her if we was leaving out, if we was still gonna be there, I was there because she kept telling me to come, please come. Because I was telling her about what I did and such, and she was saying, please come, you would definitely enjoy. And then she gave me the whole, rundown about her husband, and her husband is the one that got her into Pan-Africanism.
Yes.
And the store, the history of the store, and the move and the location of the store, blase, blase. And I bought the shirt, after she told me about it. I said, whoa, she said, yeah, this is my husband. I said, well, I want the shirt. I actually forgot I had the shirt until the other day. I had a show last week. Well, I had a show yesterday too, but last week's show, I wore the shirt. You know what I'm saying? I said, I'm gonna put this shirt on right here because the brother is from Chicago, but he stayed in Dallas
Okay.
before, so he know of Pan African connection. I said, well, shoot, I'm gonna put my shirt on. He's in Atlanta now, but I said I'm gonna put my shirt on because he's a Pan African and he's a hip hop artist, as well, and he's a school teacher. I think he's a 3rd grade school teacher. And an activist. And so I said, I'm gonna put my shirt on. So I wore my shirt and forgot I had the shirt sitting up in there. But yeah, I'm coming back out there this year, man, because I want to chop it back up with her and, you know what I'm saying, and experience the stuff that she has going on Sunday. Because she has something every Sunday, don't she, Dr. Wade?
Every single Sunday is the drum circle. And then there may be something before or after. They also have the Ubuntu farmers market where a lot of the local farmers bring and sell their supplies. Plus it's other vendors. So it's the vibe. Ubuntu farmers market.
Yes, I am because of you. Yes, sir. Yep. That's the wrap, y'all. So let's give us. Let me see if I can give. Let's give ourselves.
Just like music, baby. Just like music. We did it.
All right. So we'll see y'all next month. You know what I'm saying? Same time, same channel.
That's right. That's right. All of that.
The Griot Podcast. Another in my opinion, another great episode. Another great show.
Always learn so much.
And you never know what to expect. I like that we allowed ourselves to talk about music today in this way. It's something that's new for us, but I like that we allowed that to be something, unique that we tried. We nailed it.
Nailed him.
Had a good time today.
Oh, yeah.
Nailed him.
And this is one of the books I was talking about. Let's see if y'all can see that.
Oh, yeah.
Big book, nice book, the Griots and Griots. Then you got the modern day Griot and Griot.
Come on now. Come on.
And the marathon.
Come on now.
I talked about Nipsey, so the marathon. That's another great. Yep.
Yes, sir. I did the audio book about 2 months ago. It's an amazing book, man. Go out there and get it.
Yep.
It's a very, very good book.
Yep. Go check it out. And on that note, man, we out of here. Peace. We'll see y'all.
What they say, peace up, A-Town down.
A-Town down.
Peace. Have a good day, y'all.
All right. Oh no, that's not what I want. Let me see. Hold on, I got some.
But yeah, the remix. But
Come on,
wait a
TJ,
minute.
that's all right.
Yeah, the
That's
remix.
yo, but that ain't it. There you go.
Peace, family.
I'm in the city here. I'm in the spot. In the vicinity. I'm the hottest up in the city. Yeah, it really is. I studied the ones that was the realest, the illest, that invented that. Talking about griots. West African passages for the street stone. Adios, mio. They get about the Afro-Latinos. Rock every dish from Africa's West Central. Let's raise a toast to the ancestors of old. For the knowledge comes in the form of a griot.